All right, so today we're going to use this n8n template to learn a little bit more about the basics of JSON code. Now, JSON is the code language that all n8n workflows run in. Essentially, everything that we're seeing right now, this workflow, can be translated directly to JSON. And that's going to make sharing templates very easy when you understand how it actually works. So let's take a look at this. Is a great example here. We see what is JSON. Imagine a contact card named John Doe, age 30, has children, yes, and then it has 2 phone numbers. Now, JSON has a way of writing this down so a computer can understand it perfectly. Great explanation there. Oh, we don't have execute. That's interesting. I thought we would have some output data pinned here to mirror this reflection, this John Doe contact card. Perhaps it is here. Okay. Now, I could hit execute workflow here, and that will run this whole workflow. All right. Now, what I'm going to do instead is I'm double clicking on this node and I'm going to hit execute step up here. And what that's going to do, boom. And see, that's our output. No fields item exist, but they're empty. That means this node output nothing, but it did run. And we are going to pin the data. Now, what's important about pinning the data is now we don't need to run this whenever we test the scenario again. Say this was an AI agent that we just pinned the data for. Next time we test the workflow, we can just use the data that the AI agent has already put out in that last execution. And also, we don't need to pay for its API usage. So this is a very, very good setting. You would do good to learn this one. Now, with JSON, a very key thing that you want to remember is that everything has a key and a value. Now, the key is the name of what the object is. That's how we're going to refer to it in future executions. And the value is the part of it that can change between runs. So key is static, value is variable. So as you can see, we have key and value here, another key, another value. Now let's execute this step and see what it gives us as an output. See, we have key as one key, and its value is simply value. And we have another key, another value, just like that. And this is how it reads in a JSON block of code. It's not too hard to understand, right? By the way, yeah, you can see data in 3 different ways: schema, table, and that gets really handy when we are building further nodes. For example, check this out. For example, say I wanted to set this value to the same value as our key in the first one. I would do that. This is what's called an expression. We'll get to teach you what that is later, and it simply maps to the text string value because that's what key is in this run. So if we execute the step, look at that, it output as value. Now let's go ahead and pin this data so that way we don't have to run them again. By the way, yeah, string is one of the data types. It basically just means text. So we're pretty much just expecting text to be there. So let's say this is what a string's like on pin, and if we run that code, see that data gets passed and it will be treated as a string later on in the run. So, say we wanted to check our leads for, if their email addresses went to Gmail or to a different email provider, we could go ahead and look at this string that passes their email variable and put it into an if node. Yeah, we don't need to pin all these. Well, what happens when it's a number? Well, it gets the data type number. Pretty easy to understand. That just gets treated as a number. So if we wanted to, track our lead's age and say we only want to talk to people under 35, say we're, I don't know, running some kind of age sensitive business and we want to make sure that, we're sticking within a certain age range. We can also use an if node to check that and to, clean up leads that are outside of our range. Now, the Boolean data type is pretty simple. It is only either true or false. It's only true or false. That's pretty easy for, when we want to track things like if the lead has certain types of contact information, if they are of a certain demographic, we can use Boolean variables to track those. Null data type is kind of interesting. That's the one that happens if there is no data being passed at all. Look at that. The JSON code for that key is literally empty. JSON object. Now, for an array is a list of objects. So say we wanted to pass a couple of different data types in the same key, and there we have it. See, and if it's empty, we can also just type the word null into the output data or the input data in some cases. Maybe you're setting up an API call or something of that nature, then you can go ahead and use that. Sound good? Awesome. Now for an object is a collection of key value pairs. So if we have a bunch of different key value pairs, then we actually want to go ahead and look at that. See how key and value is nested in there, and key and value is a string key value there, and there is an array that's also nested in here. Boolean false, we've got a Boolean in there, an integer, and a sub object with a sub key, and that has a string find me. That is a string in there. Okay, now do you guys remember expressions from like 5 minutes ago? I hope so, because we are about to use that. Also, something interesting you might want to know, we can actually put plain text as well as an expression in the same field. It doesn't have to be beholden to one or the other. We can have both, and it's perfectly fine. Now, if you can see this, hello, the number from the tutorial is 10. Look at that. Actually, where did it pull that from? The number node? That's something you'll want to know if you're writing expressions in n8n, is that they often start, you won't have to do this if the data comes from the node directly before, but if it comes from earlier, from further upstream, you're going to want to name the node that it comes from, and it has to match it exactly. All right, final exam, putting it all together, and then we're going to create one more object by using expressions to pull in data from all the previous nodes. Interesting. So how does this work? Yep, we've got string, we've got number, Boolean, null, array, and object. Okay, and as you can see, these are all pure expressions, so it should be pretty simple. This is what a string looks like. This is what we got from the string node, 10 from the number node, false from the Boolean node, null from null. It's pretty straightforward at this point. So yeah, those are the basics on writing and reading JSON code. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you gained some clarity on what JSON is and how to use it. And so with that, be sure to leave a like, share your thoughts with the class, and before you subscribe, make sure you know what you're doing, because it ain't easy being at the top. I'll see you guys next time.
Blackfin cutting through the blazing rain. Thunder rolling, but I ride the wave again. Deep tide rising, hear the echo call.